Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sergeant Andy Holder, and I'm the Neighbourhood Sergeant for Stourbridge. Tonight's an exciting event because we're actually streaming our meeting over the internet live. That said, if you've got questions regarding individuals at certain locations, we'd ask that you'd refrain from asking that in public forum and speak to one of us afterwards tonight. Thank you for coming, and thank you to Dudley Metropolitan Borough Council for allowing us to use the library and their Wi-Fi to be able to stream this meeting live across the internet. I'm joined tonight by my colleague.
I'm WPC Natalie Lees.
And Natalie's holding an iPad tonight because we're going to ask people to ask questions via the internet as well, using the hashtag #AskStourbridge. That's ask with a capital S for Stourbridge and then all lowercase. I'm also joined by
PC Bernardo.
And tonight's meeting is actually about how the police, responsible for policing Stourbridge Town Centre and Wollaston, can assist you. And you have a say in how you should be policed and ask us questions to hold us to account as well. When Sir Robert Peel set up the police, he wanted the police to be to police by consent, and what better way than for us to actually have a public forum whereby people can ask us questions and we agree joint priorities that we should be focused on to prevent crime disorder. And the most important thing is to make Stourbridge an even safer place than it is already. We discussed at the last PACT meeting, or the Policing and Community Together meeting, that we wouldn't discuss crime figures, statistics, but we'd talk about more crime trends and what's actually going on in the local area, because that's more impactful than looking at numbers. And that didn't come from the police, that actually came from the floor of the meeting. So what's been going on in Stourbridge locally? Well, I've took over this neighbourhood team at the beginning of the month, and we've identified the Rye Market car park in Stourbridge Town Centre as being an area where young people are congregating. There's graffiti being caused. There's evidence of drug abuse in terms of cannabis being smoked up there. And there's trolleys, unfortunately, being thrown over the side of the car park. Clearly, it's unacceptable what's going on up there. And we've been stepping up our patrols to make an impact. And what we've actually noticed is we found young people going for a walk around the car park at the ages of 14 and 15. Well, the car park doesn't go anywhere. And the Rye Market Centre management, we've been in consultation with them and the local businesses, and we're working closely with Dudley Council, who own that car park. And we're looking at using some new legislation that's coming in under the new Antisocial Behaviour Act around public place protection orders. So we can actually prohibit under 18s unless accompanied by a vehicle going onto the car park. And we'd like to seek the public's view on how they'd feel about an order of that sort of standing, preventing young people from congregating on a car park. There is nowhere to go. There is no reason for young people to be up there, unless, of course, they are 16, 17, 18 with a vehicle to park it and then go shopping in the town centre. We don't want to stop young people coming to the town centre, far from it, but we actually want to stop young people congregating on the Rye Market Centre car park and make it a less intimidating place for people to go. Very low in Stourbridge and very low on Dudley Borough. Dudley Borough is one of the safest areas in the West Midlands Police. Stourbridge is one of the safest areas in Dudley Borough. So therefore, we want to make Stourbridge even safer. and make it a great place for people to visit, work, live. Has anybody got any views on our suggestion? It wouldn't be a police application, it would be an application for the local authority, but we're taking the opportunity to get some public consultation very early on to see if there's any major opposition or other suggestions that we could do around that. Obviously, we're not looking at criminalising young people. We're going to work with our partners in terms of the local authority, getting youth workers to engage with young people first of all, to divert them away and find activities more suitable to do rather than hanging around on the car park. And as I say, the main aim is not to criminalise young people, far from it, but actually just to make that car park a safe place to go. So one, young people don't end up being injured by the activities they're doing in forms of skateboarding, in terms of graffiti, in terms of throwing trolleys over to the side of the car park, which is unacceptable. And we've identified the groups or age groups involved. So we think that's where a prohibitive order would have some value. Put it out to the audience, both here and online, watching, to see what their views would be on a public protection order, a public place protection order. And again, you've got an opportunity to ask us questions using that hashtag on Twitter of Ask Stourbridge.
Eagerly anticipating those comments.
I'll let Nat just keep monitoring Twitter to see if we have any questions being forthcoming, and move on to the other area that we're focusing our attention on at the moment, which is Mary Stevens Park and the car park. Obviously, there has been we are aware that there's tension in terms of the car park being used by the staff who have now been based at the council house in the park, and the limited parking that's taking place for people who want to use the park facilities. That's not for the police to get involved with. However, there have been instances where people have left screws on the car park, which has ended up puncturing tyres of members of the public's vehicles, which is criminal damage, which is unacceptable. And we've been working closely with the Metropolitan Borough Council and the departments down there to find ways to resolve this criminality that's going on. We've stepped up our patrols in that location. We've deployed some new signage to deter offenders. And I'd be asking at this stage, asking for witnesses to come forward, if anybody knows any information around that, to come forward either to us directly or via Crime Stoppers to identify who's responsible. It appears that that location is being specifically targeted, unfortunately, and it's not a one-off event. There's been a number of incidents where screws have been found, and even if the offender's watching, it's the consequences of that cause. If somebody's driving around the ring road and that tyre blows, that could have a significant impact on the driver of that vehicle, and we'd ask that that action is stopped and stopped immediately, because we don't want anything escalating. We don't want anything seriously hurt as a result of the screws being left to puncture the tyres.
Still no tweets, please. Make some comment.
Is there any
Are you
question?
talking to that?
I'm talking to you as well.
Oh, yeah, but you're talking to that as well?
Yeah.
That's just kind of watching us to go out onto
Oh, okay.
YouTube.
It's right, 'cause I didn't know how it worked. I was got can't come because I've got to go to college to do a presentation till 8 o'clock.
Right. Is there any questions from yourself or anything?
Already asked Steve what I wanted to ask.
Right.
It's where do these groups of people go to that are, and channeling their energies into something else, or where,
And that
otherwise
is.
you're going to keep moving them around, aren't you?
No, well, that's why we want to get that early engagement with youth workers,
Yeah.
who are employed by the Dudley Metropolitan Borough Council, who are one of our key partners, in diverting their activities into something more beneficial for themselves, and cause less financial problems to the council, and reduce that fear of crime by people using that car park. The car park's a safe car park. We have very little car crime from that location, but because of the graffiti, it puts that fear of crime into people. Now, if we can stop that graffiti from taking place, identifying individuals involved, stopping young people from hanging around in the car park and finding them something more suitable to do with youth workers, then that's what we want to achieve. It's not about criminalising people or catching and convicting people of criminality. We want to actually divert it and stop it from happening, so it actually makes that place a safe place to visit, which it is.
Because I wouldn't want to go into a multi-storey at night by myself.
Just get into the.
But it's that fear factor, I think, of going up the stairwells and seeing that graffiti, when in fact it is a safe location. It's just that graffiti makes it feel unsafe. And if we can stop the young people from going there and congregating, this is new legislation which hasn't been tested yet, and it's just putting the feelers out there really to see what people's views would be on stopping young people from hanging around on the car parks. To me, a car park is where you go, you drive or ride, you park up, you park up, you go shopping. It's not a place where you go for a walk round to see what's going on. It's not a place to go, and what their activities they're doing with throwing trolleys over the side. It's quite dangerous in terms of what could happen to them as offenders if they lost their footing, etc. So it is quite significant, risky behaviour that they're doing, and we want to stop that.
I think just to add there, just to reassure the users in the meantime, because this may take a few weeks to get sorted, that obviously it's not all of the users that go there that are causing the graffiti and that are causing these problems. It's just the mere presence that are sometimes intimidating people, but it's not every group of users that are causing these issues of antisocial behaviour. And we have had a tweet from Tom Joy, who's asking what happened in Stourbridge by the Bell on Friday evening around 8 p.m. Tom, I don't know off the top of my head, but I will find out and I will get back to you.
I mean, again, as Nat has said, the vast majority of all society are law-abiding citizens. That includes young people as well. And I think sometimes we get this image of all young people, the way they dress, the way the media sometimes portrays them, it causes a fear of crime. And what we've got to actually remember is it's only a very, very, very small minority of all age groups that actually cause problems for the whole of society. And this is why these meetings are so great, is because it gives you a chance to put your priorities to us, as to say, what do you want us to focus on? I mean, we've put out there now that 2 priorities to us, because they're causing us, with the Rye Market car park is what we've identified locally. And 2 is the demand for service being placed on us by the calls to service at Mary Stevens Park because of this mindless actions of screws being put down, puncturing tyres. Again, is unacceptable and has to stop. But what issues are affecting you without identifying individuals or addresses that we need to focus our time on? I'll put it out to the internet and I'll put it out to the audience here.
I think for the people that have arrived late, obviously we are streaming this live now onto the internet. It's the future. So rather than give specific names and locations, like the Sarge says, if there is something specific, we'll hang around. You can speak to us afterwards, all right? But generally speaking, if there's anything that any of you would like to say, by all means.
Before the meeting started, you raised the issue about the front office closing at Stourbridge.
I mean, and we don't ring 999 if we're worried about someone crowding around the area, do we? What's the number?
Well, there's a number of things there. 999, if there's a crime in progress, there's somebody's life at risk, then that's a genuine emergency. What we're putting people off dialing 999 for, and you won't believe what calls we get. What's the number for Sky, so I can unblock my television? Where can I top up my electric meter?
That's true.
And it's those types of 999 calls that we need to stop. Somebody acting suspicious in your street could well be a 999 call, depending on the circumstances. And it's very difficult to say what's the right circumstance to dial 999 for, because it would all very much be on the circumstances that are unfolding in front of you. But it's the 999 call to report lost property. It's the 999 call to report a crime that has happened that is no longer in progress. If you've got an incident, for example, your car was broken into and it was been found overnight, that wouldn't be a 999 call. We'd ask you to use the 101 service, and then a central or the hubs would take your call, which is and take the necessary action and ask you questions regarding the CCTV. Have any of your neighbours seen anything? Because we're all part of the community, including us. We've all got friends, neighbours who may have seen something. So we'll ask you to do some inquiries yourselves to really help us, and then we will make a judgment whether that crime needs to be investigated further or not. We do take crime seriously. It's important that we know what's happening in the local area. We don't want to discourage people reporting crime, far from it. We need you to report crime so we can accurately understand what's going on in the local area, so we can deploy our resources at the right time and at the right locations to target the people, the small minority of people that are causing harm to our communities. We also want to focus on vulnerable members of society, domestic abuse, child sexual exploitation, hate crime, these sorts of criminality which really affect the confidence of people in how we react as a police service. And it's these sorts of issues that we really need to know about, so we can protect the most vulnerable. I'm sure you agree that it's important that sometimes people are frightened to speak up, and we've got to empower people to speak up and have the confidence to be able to come forward and speak to the police to report those sorts of criminality to us.
We've had another tweet.
Have we?
You'll know the answer to this, Sarge. Hi, this is great. Will you be streaming the meetings every month?
All being well, hopefully, as long as we don't get expelled from the library for being too noisy. I think this is a great venue that they've allowed us to use tonight, and we're not being quiet in the library, which is even better, rebelling. But in all seriousness, I think it's a great way to interact with people. We understand that people have got busy lives and won't be able to come to every PACT meeting or policing and community together meetings. I've got to check myself on jargon. We want to thank people who've always attended the meetings, and we don't want you to stop coming, but there'll be people who aren't always available to come and have got the opportunity to sit at home and join us and ask questions and feel part of having a say in how policing takes place in their local area. So to the answer to that one is yes, we will be streaming all our meetings.
I'm willing you to ask.
We were asked a question earlier, prior to the meeting starting, actually, on our Twitter page about the travelling community going towards the car park by the tip on Stourbridge on Birmingham Street. The local authority have got traveller liaison officers, and they're actively engaged with a group of people and looking at ways to work with them to make sure that everybody's in a safe environment at this moment in time. So that's an ongoing piece of work by the local authority, and if they need our assistance, they will contact us. But at the moment, it's being led by the local authority. Is there any questions from the floor here? Is there any people you'd like to see further come to the PACT meetings that we could invite? We have asked the local councillors, and obviously
There's one here, but there's never anybody here, is there? I've seen him before.
and it's when people are available to attend. So, but if there's other people, groups of people who you'd like to see here, then ask. If there's a specific need, then maybe we could even ask the relevant council authority to come along to give you an update. The plan will be that we've got the Twitter feed out there, we've got the live streaming of the meetings now. If we're given enough notice about a specific topic that somebody may want to speak about, then we could look at inviting people in and invite on our Twitter feed.
I'll just give an example of how it has worked. I think before Christmas, you know the old vet and Chinese restaurant at the bottom of Market Street, opposite Waitrose. Your colleagues have been approached by some local residents because it had been used as a sleep out, a place for borrowed goods, shall we say. And there are some concerns about rats. And because I was at the meeting, we were able to work with the police and with the council to try and do some investigative work into the rat problem, but also start to talk to the owners of the properties to see whether or not they would be willing to invest some money or perhaps sell it on and develop it. And while at the same time the police were able to deal with some of the crime issues that we're looking at. But that had come about as an issue before the meeting. So I'd sort of been primed a little bit before I came down, which was quite useful.
Great, and that's what it's all about. Is actually a great example of joined up working there to spot an environmental and a criminal problem, work together, joint investigation, and we've effectively problem solved it. And it does make people feel a lot safer. And that's our main issue, is actually making you feel safe, because I worked here many years ago, and I've only just returned to Stourbridge at the beginning of the month, and I started here as a probationer approaching 20 years ago, and it actually feels a far safer place now than it was 20 years ago. But if you looked at all the media reports, etc., you'd think that crime was rife, and it's far from it. It's a lovely place to work, and it's a lovely place to live.
And that actually leads on quite well to our next tweet that says, how can I find details online of crime in my area?
You can go to the police mapping system, Police UK, go onto the crime mapping there, and it'll give you details of where the crimes have taken place. If you go onto the West Midlands Police website, there'll be a hyperlink onto there, and you can actually just put your postcode on, and you can see what crime's taken place in your locality recently. Is there any questions from the floor? I will actually get you the hyperlink for the crime mapping. So if you have got an interest in seeing what criminality is taking place in your locations or antisocial behaviour, then we'll put the hyperlink onto the Twitter feed so you can follow that. How does people feel about the meeting being streamed live from the audience here that's taking the time to come tonight?
It's a good idea if they, have more information coming.
And that's what it's about, is actually if we can get more people, there may be a specific issue that is around where you live that we're not aware of, because people think we don't need to know, or they don't want to bother us. Far from it, we need to know. And this is a great way you getting in touch with us to raise your concerns.
Touch wood, I'm lucky where I live.
Great. And that's what,
I've got no problems where I live.
it's not lucky, it's a great place to live.
We
Stourbridge.
used to have.
We used to, didn't we, George?
That's good to know.
We soon calm that down.
If I go back to your point earlier about the police stations as well, Briley Hill is your operational front office. That's Briley Hill Police Station is always open, and you'll be able to.
So that's 24/7.
Yeah. And then we've got obviously the 101 systems 24/7 as well. Modern technology, there's newer ways of working, looking at ways that certain things can be probably done online. So if you keep monitoring the West Midlands Police website, you'll see what ideas are being thought about and being progressed, so that we become a more interactive service as well. So if we agree our priorities then, at the moment from the police perspective, we've identified 2 local priorities, one being the Ryan Market car park, 2 is the Mary Stevens car parking, criminal damage activity down there, and 3 is we will maintain our vehicle crime, where we look at people leaving valuable items on display and educating people around hiding sat navs, not leaving tools in vehicles, making sure their vehicles locked at night, or at every time, and we'll continue out that activity when we're out and about on our patrols. Is there anything else in that?
No, I just think that's not to alarm you, even though that's something that we look at. That's something that we're constantly looking at, because you'd be amazed really how many people still leave things on show in their car and leave the car unlocked. And so, like the sergeant said, we regularly carry out what we call our vulnerability patrols. So we'll just go out for an hour, target a few streets, checking the door handles of cars, and then we will check the car, find out who it's registered to, and go and actually knock the door and say, did you realise? And most of the time they don't. So there isn't an increase in vehicle crime within the area. It's just we're constantly doing that.
And we've had some convictions recently for vehicle crime in the Stourbridge area, whereby 2 individuals have been convicted at Crown Court for theft from motor vehicles, which is a great result. And that's working part with the police and with the local businesses in the town, where people have attempted to sell stolen sat-navs, and by their due diligence we've been able to identify where that property's come from, who hadn't reported it stolen, who actually hadn't been aware it had been stolen, but we were able to bring offenders to justice who'd stolen that property. So that's a great bit of work, and we maintain that work with our business community.
Yeah, I just came to the meeting tonight because I think you dropped that through my letterbox, and cause I used to go to the meetings at the Gig Mill.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and then I probably haven't heard anything for some time. That must have been a year or so ago, or probably longer.
Yes, because the ones for Norton came under the Tenants and Residents Association meetings.
Right, yeah.
So we're going to look at our PACT meetings, policing and community together meetings, to see how we can reach the more wider audience. Our team is responsible for policing Wollaston, Norton, Stourbridge Town Centre, Pedmore and parts of Lye. So we've got a wide area to capture, and if we can maybe even look at the meetings and make those meetings even wider using this sort of modern technology, but without alienating people who've always traditionally to stop coming with us, because I think we're doing it online, because not everybody has got laptops, iPads, and sometimes people might want to come speak to us in private, and that's important. But it's for wider for the wider community who might not be able to come can have a listen, see what's going on, and ask us questions and hold us to account. We want to be held to account because we're part of the community as well, and I think people sometimes forget that. But actually, we are part of the community that we're policing, and without your help, we'll achieve nothing. And I think we had a couple of examples tonight. The building in Stourbridge Town, we've got the business community helping us identify offenders for the vehicle crime. So it's important that we maintain those relationships.
And I think as well, just going on from that you don't have to save any queries that you may have for now. Obviously, Sarge and I and Dave are your local officers. So in between the meetings, if you do have any queries or concerns or an issue you want to discuss, like the Sarge mentioned earlier, you can contact us by email, telephone 101 and ask for us directly. That's still a constant thing if you need to speak to us.
And we're out and about on the street.
Yeah.
And which is great. I've escaped from behind a desk and I've got my helmet on and I'm actually out patrolling the local area as well, which is great to me. It's meeting some old faces and saying hello, having a catch up and seeing what people's views are of crime in the area. I think on the whole, people do feel safer, and I think that was borne out by yourselves when you said actually there were problems going on, but there aren't anymore, and that's great to hear.
Can I ask how far your responsibility goes for road safety in terms of speed and things like that?
Again, we've got a great working relationship with the road safety unit at Dudley Council. In fact, we went to a joint meeting over an issue with residents in Pedmore, and we had representatives of the local community, schools, the road safety unit. We'll be a point of contact for speed issues. We can put the necessary speed enforcement in around that, or education. We've also got the fire service, who've got a responsibility for reducing road casualty incidents, and we work closely with them on issues, and we want to maintain that issue. So you may see some joint operations whereby we have a speed awareness education with the fire service. So yes,
you may have seen the accidents on Oval Street.
Yes,
this week. It's not the first one down there. There's been repeated ones. It's a fatality waiting to happen down there, I think. And I've worked with the council to try and do some things, but it's not really changing it. And this last one seems to look quite serious because the railings that were put on to prevent someone's wall could decapitate somebody.
Again, that would be a question for the highways department around street furniture.
Thinking more about the speed coming down from Wollaston.
Yeah, and again, depending on the number of complaints that we have around that issue, if people don't make us aware of it, we won't have our resources there. If it's an issue that somebody's going to highlight and continue to highlight, then there's an opportunity for us to. We've got a pro laser trained officer, which is the radar gun. To do speed checks at that location.
So on that, because I'm going to go and speak to the residents there because clearly they are concerned about it, and I'll deal with the council. I was actually thinking somewhere like a speed watch where perhaps getting the residents involved in looking at the speed of cars, particularly coming down from Wollaston. Yeah. And trying to sort of raise awareness locally.
And that would be great in the first instance, would be if we could get members of the public trained as a community speed watch programme. To be our eyes and ears to test that sort of system out for us to see whether then we need to put an enforcement action in there. But if a visible actual street watch community speed watch group was established, I think that would be a great way of assisting us in making the roads safer.
In fact, a colleague of ours, Chief Inspector Blakeman, has commented on Twitter. Thank you, sir. He is responsible for camera deployments within the area, and he's actually listening into this meeting. So, perfect viewer.
Are all the speed cameras around here? Are they all off?
That's,
Well,
that's a.
silence.
I'll wait for Mr. Blakeman to come in with that answer to that one. I'll have to come back to you on that one. There are mobile speed enforcement vehicles that speed cameras, fixed speed cameras, are great in terms of casualty reduction hotspots, but they're static. West Midlands Police have now got mobile enforcement units which can, by the very nature, can go anywhere. You can't move a fixed camera, so you'll see people on Stourbridge Ring Road, they'll approach the speed camera, they'll put the brakes on, go through the speed camera, and they may then return to exceeding speed limits that are there.
It's getting really dangerous on that really.
And at that stage, then they'll look at a mobile speed enforcement.
What do they do up by Sandvik at Halesome? Because they seem to catch loads coming. I don't know if it's down and up by Sandvik up at Halesome.
Yeah, I can't comment because Halesome not my area,
No.
unfortunately. But
Again, it comes down to it goes up 40, then 50, and then down sort of 40, doesn't it? By the Black Horse coming down.
Right.
So everybody's coming downhill. So, but I think they seem to, from the press and that's probably the one spot where they you get everybody, don't you? Well, we've got Delia, we've got a lot of people speeding, and
I mean,
fine. Not as it's, just.
We look for more education if we can get people to be speed awareness courses for first-time offenders, to actually educate people into the dangers of speed. And because whilst there may be 30-mile-an-hour speed limits, it might not always be appropriate to travel at 30 miles an hour. So it's about the driver having that education to be driving at the location at the most appropriate safe speed.
Because they put 20 by the tip, didn't they, at one stage? But that was too slow.
Yeah.
Not that I should say it is too slow, but it was 20 down. And it's really physically impossible to do 20 down there.
But but they've trialled something.
Yeah.
And that shows a bit of common sense, really, to say there's an issue, let's try it. If it doesn't work, we go back to how it was. And I think that needs to be applauded, really, for trying that, because if you do what you always do, you're only going to get what you always get. And if you try something different, like this tonight, we might have different results. And we've got a few more questions coming in, and the more that we can get you to put word of mouth out to get this, that people can log in at home and follow us and ask questions at #AskStourbridge, then we can work together to make our area safer. In terms of, again, it's very difficult on the speed of vehicles, because you've carried out speed checks in locations where there's believed to have been speeding, but actually vehicles are travelling within the speed limits. But it's perception, especially if you look at the old quarter of Stourbridge, where the roads are narrow and you've got buildings. The speeds can be may look excessive, but actually when they're checked, they're within the speed limit. But it's that perception.
I was going to say, I think we had a conversation the other day about it, and I've been amazed when I was convinced that there was a car speeding and it wasn't at all. So that's why these community speed watches can be a fantastic idea. So it just puts it into perspective. Actually, they're not. Looks like they're going fast, but they're not. And just to clarify, yes, all speed cameras are switched off.
Because they were going to put some new.
Back on again.
Oh no, they were going to put some new film in, weren't they, or some? But I suppose it's cost, isn't it? And
I know that digital cameras have probably been looked at, but
those are very expensive, aren't they?
But who knows? Watch this space. Is the answer. But we have got greater mobility now by having mobile speed camera enforcement vehicles, whereby they can actually, instead of being at a static point constantly and everybody's aware of them, not about enforcement and being revenue makers, but actually first-time offenders being educated and having the speed awareness training. use that speed safely.
But
and
I
appropriately.
must admit, I did get, it was quite good. I did get once for speeding, and I went on the speed awareness course.
Yes.
And that was on the bypass towards Clent.
Right.
And they were round the corner in the no cameras or anything. It must have just been the police van and the camera. So
and that would be, I believe, West Mercia.
Oh yes, and then I went to I think it was Kidderminster for the.
And that's the same sort of vehicles that we've got for the mobile speed enforcement.
Oh right, yeah.
So, any other issues? Any concerns that people want to raise? Is everybody happy with what our proposals are?
Fine.
We're actively encouraging Neighbourhood Watch. There's value in Neighbourhood Watch in being our eyes and ears, that we can be a true partnership and share information to prevent crime and also to detect crime. So Dibbers at the back is actively seeking coordinators for Neighbourhood Watch to get that up and going. We'd be looking at Street Watch as well, whereby we've got an opportunity for people to go into locations and be our eyes and ears and report back to us. Any other tweets? No. Well then. Thank you very, very much for attending tonight. I'm glad that you've been part of this first live streaming event. It's been a pleasure, although nerve-wracking. Please share it. Put word of mouth out that actually the meetings have value. As I said to you, it's not. Sir Robert Peel said, "We police by consent." What better way than for the community that we police to hold us to account by attending the meetings virtually or in person and actually asking us questions, holding us to account, and making sure that we deliver a service that you want and expect from us.
The old Neighbourhood Watch. It started at Alzoe.
Yeah.
Then we moved down to the Gigman. There's about 250 people coming down there, being members. And we had a really good inspector come. And sometimes it was a sergeant. And he really had a lot of information.
Yeah.
But we don't get the information what we should be getting sometimes.
And again, I'll speak to our partnerships who put the information out and see what we're missing. And I'll speak to you. We'll speak to you after the meeting if that's okay, to discuss what you think you need, and so we can get that information and see if we can legally give you that information as well. I think that's always just with data protection, etc. We just got to be careful with what we disclose.
The ones who run the Neighbourhood Watch, that's what you've got to tell them.
Yeah.
And keep their eyes open.
Yeah. So.
That's the other people in the avenue.
Yeah.
And they said you're doing a fine job, so keep it up.
Brilliant.
Well, that's brilliant, yeah.
And thank you for that.
Welcome to help me out.
Right. Is there any other business?
We will hang on anyway once we've turned off the live feed and we can just relax a bit, then we'll hang on.
Thank you so much. Thank you at home who've logged on and watched us on our first one. They'll get better. Thank you for your time. Good night, everyone.